when Michelle was in D.C. And so when
He was making my life miserable every day.
well, I did what unions do. All right? I did what unions do. And so when Michelle came, you know, because look, here's the reality, and I'm going to be serious about this, right? Michelle came at a time when the city was changing from Board of Education to mayoral control, right? And so the previous contract I had negotiated, now we did what unions do, right? We spend money to get our board members elected, right? And so when I sit down to negotiate a contract as a union member, previously when the superintendent said, I want to talk about tenure, I want to talk about the best teachers in the classroom and not just letting teachers go by seniority, I'd pick up the telephone after session, I'd call my board member. Look, your boy talking crazy. Give him a call. He wants to talk about seniority. He wants to talk about putting the best teachers in the classroom. You need to give him a call, because we got you elected. You know how much money we spent campaigning for you last year? And now they want to talk about changing something? All of a sudden, at the next negotiation session, the superintendent's changed his tone. That's the politics of how we operate as unions. So when Michelle came, all of a sudden there was no Board of Education, right? So she comes to the table and we're going to talk about change. So I was like, okay, we're going to get you too. We don't know what to do about you. So I run up to the mayor's office, right? I said, I want to meet with the mayor. Because this lady is talking about keeping the best teachers and letting the worst teachers go. No way. We do this thing by seniority, right? We don't care how good the teacher's teaching. If you come in last, you got to go, right? And so I go to the mayor's office. The mayor says, well, I told Michelle when she came, I'm going to let her do what she has to do. So all of a sudden, I don't have anybody that I can go to stop this thing. I don't have anybody. The city council has no authority. We don't have a school board. But it's the best thing that could happen to me. Because for once, I had to begin to analyze whether my position as a union leader was really about children, or was it really about adult issues? Does it really make sense that if you got 4,000 teachers and you got to let 200 of them go, does it really make sense to say, just in the last 200, why don't you say, let's keep the best 3,800 of those teachers? Because that's what we want in front of our children. I had to start analyzing, was my position as a union leader right? Because in the past, all I had to do was call my board member and I never had to talk about it. I didn't have to justify my views. But it was one of the best things that happened. And then I had an experience with a little girl one day, right? I was going out to a school and, speaking to a group. I think these were like maybe third graders. And so when I'm talking to children, they get to ask you, what do you do? Right? So as a union president, I say to them, I make sure that your teachers get the kind of things that they need in order for you to get a good education. And I also make sure that you got the best teachers in front of you. And so when I'm getting ready to leave, like this little girl, I guess she's 8 years old or so, right? She runs up and just hugs me. And like kids can give you like some real love, can't they? Right? And so I'm kind of like wondering why, she hugging me, right? And so she says, because you said you care about us. And you said you make sure we got the best teachers, right? So I'm getting in my car and I'm driving back home, and they Opal calls it these aha moments. But I'm driving back home, but it was just something about that experience that I just said to myself in the car, you lied to that little girl. She came up and gave me that hug and really believed me that I cared about her and make sure they got the best teachers. And so I'm saying, you lied to that little girl. You don't care if she's got the best teachers. You just spent $10,000 on an arbitration case to put a bad teacher right back in the classroom in front of little girls like that. And so it became a reality check for me that, okay, you just spent $10,000 of union money to put a teacher back in the classroom that you won't get anywhere near your little 4-year-old grandchild. But it's okay for that teacher to go and teach other people's children. So I had to come to grips with, who am I? Am I the George Parker that is a union president that says to my fellow people in the low-income community, I'm going to fight to spend money to make sure I put the bad teacher in front of you. But it didn't bother me because I can send my little granddaughter to another school. And so I had to decide, does everybody's child deserve what my child and my grandchild deserves? And that's the answer. And it made me go back to where I came from. It's that, look, you grew up poor. Education was my only way to get any chance at the American dream. And here I am sending the bad teachers right back to the same little girl who was me. Great education was her only way out. And so I came to a whatever you want to call it, realization that I couldn't do it that way any longer. I had to do what was right for kids. And that's why I'm here today. I'm probably one of the only union presidents in the country that are saying things that I'm saying. But I'm saying them because it's right for kids. It's right for kids. As a union, let me tell you, as an African-American community, and I'm very honest about this, as a union president, we knew how to deal with you. We knew how to deal with you. When they taught charter schools, we had meetings to talk about how do we stop this. And one of the things that we do in the African-American community, we're a very emotional community. There are union leaders who sit down and they plot, okay, we want to stop charter schools. How do we influence the African-American community? We know where you came from. We got slavery history. We're used to folks taking advantage of it. So let's put the message out there. Charter schools is a group of old white folks or some money-hungry folks that want to take money from your public schools and make money off your children. And all of a sudden we get the African-American community being scared. Yep, they want to come in and take advantage of us. Not true. But as unions, we knew how to do it. Vouchers. We knew how to play the voucher game. Right? Or they want to take money, they just want to give it to you to go to those private schools. You just let them do it, and sooner or later they'll be giving it to Catholic schools. Right? And listen, they'll give it to him, they'll start separating us, right? They're going to give it to his job, and they're not going to give it to those jobs. We knew how to separate the African-American community from what's best for their children because we know they're emotional people, and what we do is present data to you that appeals to your emotions. Closing schools, right? African-Americans, we know. From a union standpoint, I never wanted the school closed. Why? Because that meant some of my teachers were going to lose jobs. That's less money coming into the what? Union. So you got 3 schools within a 10-block radius that could house 2,000 kids, and you only got 700 kids. But as an African-American community, let's keep all 3 open. And as a union, we biting off that. We're going to keep saying to you instead of, it makes financial sense. That if you got 3 schools that can hold 2,000 kids, and you only got 700 kids, close 1 or 2 of those schools and take the money and make the one school right. But from a union standpoint, you talk about cutting some teachers if you do that. So let me join the African-American community and let's fight together to keep that school from closing. So then you have to decide, well, what message am I going to give these black folks? Let's make the black folks feel you're taking something from them. So what we do is we say, oh, see, they're closing schools here, aren't they? Look over there in the white community. They aren't closing any schools. Well, guess what? Those schools in other communities are full. So we are experts at playing with your emotions and making you think we are protecting you. Because the minute the union comes in, we start. Oh yeah, they're trying to close your school. We're with you now. Now black folks just believe, oh boy, the union is with us. No, we're trying to save our teachers. Because it takes more teachers to service 3 schools than it does 1. We're trying to preserve our union dues. Now, that is a reality that I tell you, my colleagues will want to kill me if I'm telling you this, but trust me. That be aware when folks come to you claiming they're fighting for you and tell you emotional things, because they know we don't like for folks and we don't trust folks. We don't trust folks coming into our community. Right? So all you do is tell us if you can paint it in a way that we feel that there are some white folks or some other black folks, and we, as unions, I got to give it to us, as unions, we are much better at simplifying the message that education reformers are. We know how to give you the one-liners. So when you see black folks that come in with charter schools, we had to figure out, well, now how do we get white folks to kind of turn against black folks? Well, we got to say that the black folks is a figurehead for the white folks. So that's our message. That these companies coming in here, yeah, they got black faces, but there's some white folks behind them making all the money. So then black folks again become a little bit scary. It's like, see somebody trying to take advantage of us, so we don't really care. He's just speaking for somebody else. Be aware. That look, I said to a family when I spoke to a parent conference in New York, I said that if you look at your child's school, and your child's school is not succeeding, and you look at a charter school down the street, and they are succeeding, and here comes George Parker, another union president, telling you, let's get rid of the charter schools. Something's wrong with that. You need to not listen to that, because the bottom line is, children need to be educated, and technically, I don't care whether it's a charter school, a private school, a public school, or whatever, do they get educated? And I had this feeling about vouchers, and I'm going to tell you about vouchers. In my generation, most of the black kids, and I went to college in the 70s, right? We went to college on a voucher. You know what it was called? A Pell Grant. Somebody looked at my family and said, your family is so poor that in order for you to get an opportunity for a good education, boy, we're going to have to give you some money to go to another school and you don't have to pay it back. Now, you don't have to call it a voucher. Look, it's money that I don't have to pay back that someone is giving me to try to get an education. They call it Pell Grant. Well, then, if it's okay for me as a high school graduate, that if I'm in poverty and you're giving me money to say that gives me access to a college that I need, then why is it so wrong for kids in K-12? That if you're so poor and you trapped into a poor school, and here's somebody saying, here's some money we'll give you to try to help you get access to a school. What's wrong with that? Is it the name? Let's call it a Pell Grant. Let's not call it a voucher. But it's all about money to help you get access to a quality education. That's it.
I'm going to anoint you in the name of